to the end of the trading week. It's Friday, the 21st of March. Hello, everyone. This is your Frontier Opening Bell. I am boasting number 5. Quite a bit of a mixed Thursday for a number of markets we cover on the continent. The Ghana stock market continued that very strong trajectory since the start of the week, adding 15 basis points on Thursday. The BRVM, starting with West Africa, that is, the BRVM fell very sharply, 1.38%. The Nigerian market was down by 0.05%. That's the Nigerian exchange. That's it. In North Africa, the Egyptian market finished the trading week 1.05%, solidly above 31,000 level in Cairo until Sunday, when the markets reopened for a fresh new week and the final market week in the third month of the first quarter of the year. The NSE in Nairobi was down by 0.45%. Quite some reactions to some of the earnings there. East African Breweries was down by 0.5%. Cooperative Bank, which reported earnings, fell by 2.74%. KPLC, the Kenya Power, also fell by 6.5%. Quite a bit of a choppy day. ABSA, however, was positive, roughly 6% in the banking industry. The Johannesburg stock market pulled back from that historic high of 90,100 earlier to decline 0.75% on a Thursday. That's on the back of industrials down by 2.28%. Resources also fell roughly 1%. First round, Old Mutual, some of the biggest, the most actively traded stocks on Thursday. So that's roughly the African market for Thursday. Casablanca stock market was positive 1.01%. Let me just take that quickly to look at the big stories within the East and Central Africa. Some good news still continuing in the aviation sector. I'm sure you've heard about the Ethiopian Airlines knocking some deals with Vietnam, going for direct flights to Hanoi starting in May. Then some deal with Qatar Airways as well, with Etihad Airways. Now Uganda Airlines reporting that it's launching another historic flight to London Gatwick. That is expected to take off very soon. Quite some good news there. Rwanda parliamentarians have queried the plan by the government to introduce a 15% fuel levy that they found a little bit unsettling, considering the state of the economy. Oh, by the way, the Rwandan economy grew roughly 9% for full year 2024. In earnings, Cooperative Bank of Kenya, I mentioned earlier, reported a net interest income of 13.9% growth for last year. Profit after tax came in roughly 10%. Earnings per share also grew 10.5%, but the stock declined on Thursday, despite those earnings release. Ethiopia has achieved $270 million in foreign exchange surplus. That's according to the minister in charge of planning and development, speaking to a local television channel. And Seychelles Islands in Brazil says they are looking into widening areas of bilateral trade and cooperation between the two countries. And Tanzania, finally, in that region, inflation rises to 3.2% in February as the currency, the Tanzanian shillings, flops as one of the worst performing currency. And those are the headlines on economy and finance there. And of course, the whole problem with the DR Congo, East Africa, is yet to abate, by the way, if you follow the news, despite the talks about a ceasefire, which was discussed in Doha a few days ago between President Tshisekedi and President of DR Congo and President Paul Kagame of Rwanda. So let's check in with West African headlines. Of course, this is broadly across the global oil industry. Of course, Nigeria and Angola in Western Central Africa, part of the oil production, oil producing countries around in Africa. OPEC says it received a total of 4.2 million barrels per day compensation from about 7 member states: Kazakhstan, Oman, Iraq, Russia, Saudi Arabia. The total of that about 4.2 million barrels per day. Let's keep an eye on how this will be sorted out down the line. What else do we have within West Africa? India is wooing Nigeria businesses for further cooperation and economic investments across the two countries. As a Trump trade war intensifies, India is expected to come under tariff imposition from Donald Trump's U.S. authorities on the 2nd of April, just about a week or so away from that. And Access Bank of Nigeria, one of the largest commercial banks, has opened 193.3 billion naira commercial paper short-term borrowing, and that is expected to close on March day 25. And they have the Cameroon reporting public debt up 7.8% in 2024 because the country saw an increase in borrowings, while Ghana is looking at the new gold board to boost the country's economy by $250 million every week. That's part of the new thinking around the President Mahama's administration, still less than 100 days in office. Those are the headlines out of West Africa. What do we have in Southern Africa? Yesterday, the central bank, the SARB, held the country's repo rate at 7.5% due to what governor of the SARB described as unpredictable global environment. And of course, the vote was divided. 4 members voted in favor of a rate hold, while 2 members of the MPC voted for a 25 basis point cut in the repo rate. The session was carried by the majority, 7.5%. That's where things will hold until the next meeting at the SARB, keeping an eye on the developments globally and, of course, within the President Ramaphosa's economy. Bloomberg has retracted, according to a report early Friday, the story that says that JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, and other international financial institutions are selling down rapidly, roughly 16 billion rand in South Africa's bond holdings. That's now being retracted, and Bloomberg, according to sources, says that that story did not meet its editorial standards. And the copper corridor is boosting Namibia-Zambia trade with about 48% last year. News this morning that copper is now being added with cobalt to China's reserves, in that, of course, where the country already holds a massive amount of gold. Now, copper and cobalt has been added to that. Zimbabwean-born Kirsty Coventry has become the first female president of the International Olympics Committee. She's the first African and the first woman ever to head the International Olympics Committee. Congratulations to Madam Coventry. And Australia's Lou Kappa Diamond says he's gotten a majority stake in the Lulo joint venture in Angola. Those are the headlines. Southern part of the country. Where else do we go from here? That's north. Morocco targeting a budget deficit below 6.7% by the year 2027. That's according to the latest. Morocco, however, is signing an investment deal worth about 2.3 billion dinars with China's Sunrise Group. In the meantime, Morocco has mandated banks to sell the first foreign bonds that the country is issuing the first time in 2 years. In Egypt, the MS Meda says it's funding about 574,000 small businesses or small projects in the upper part of Egypt with about 11.9 billion local currency, that's Egyptian pounds. And finally, the UAE and Tunisia started an economic partnership talks to boost about $350 million trade between both countries in the North Africa and, of course, across the Middle East, where UAE is. So that's the latest this Friday as we head into the weekend. It's a Thank God Friday. Do enjoy the weekend, and let's get back together on Monday, and we'll continue from here on Frontier Opening Bell. Bye for now.